I've always been drawn to abandoned places. There's a haunting beauty in decay, a whisper of stories left untold. So when I heard about the old carnival on the edge of town, I couldn't resist. It had been closed for years, ever since that tragic accident on the Ferris wheel. People said it was haunted, but I didn't believe in ghosts. I just wanted to capture its eerie splendor with my camera. The entrance to the carnival was overgrown with weeds, the gate rusted and hanging ajar. I parked my car nearby and walked through the broken gate, past a faded sign that read, "Welcome to Funtown Carnival." The rides were rusted, the tents torn, and the paths were overtaken by nature. As I stepped through the gates, the carnival felt more like a graveyard than a place of joy. The eerie silence was occasionally broken by the creak of metal or the rustle of leaves. I walked down the midway, taking pictures. I stopped at an old carousel, its horses frozen in mid-gallop, their eyes dull and lifeless. They looked like they were waiting for something, or someone, to bring them back to life. I captured a few shots, trying to imagine the laughter and music that once filled the air. As I ventured further in, I noticed signs of recent activity. Footprints in the dirt, cigarette butts, and empty beer cans. It was unsettling, but not entirely surprising. Teenagers and homeless people often sought refuge in such places. Still, I kept my guard up, just in case. I reached the center of the carnival, where the big top tent loomed ominously. Its once bright stripes were now faded and grimy. I hesitated for a moment before pulling back the heavy flap and stepping inside. The smell hit me immediately, a rancid mix of sweat, urine, and something else I couldn't identify. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing rows of dilapidated seats and a stage covered in debris. As I moved deeper into the tent, I heard a faint rustling sound. My heart pounded in my chest, but curiosity got the better of me. That's when I saw them, clowns. At least a dozen of them scattered around the tent. Their once vibrant costumes were now tattered and filthy, their makeup smeared and grotesque. They moved with a jittery, unsettling energy, and I realized with horror that they were high, probably on whatever drugs they could get their hands on. I tried to back away slowly, but one of them spotted me. His eyes were wild, and he let out a guttural scream that sent shivers down my spine. The others turned to look, their expressions a mix of rage and madness. I knew I had to get out of there, fast. I spun around and ran, but the clowns were on me in an instant. One grabbed my arm, his grip surprisingly strong. I swung my flashlight at him, connecting with his head and sending him sprawling. Another lunged at me, and I kicked out, catching him in the stomach. Panic surged through me as I fought to break free. I managed to slip past them and bolted for the exit. I could hear their footsteps pounding behind me, their deranged laughter echoing in the night. My breath came in ragged gasps, and my legs felt like they were on fire, but I couldn't stop. I wouldn't stop. I burst out of the tent and sprinted toward my car. The clowns were still chasing me, their faces twisted with fury and madness. I fumbled with my keys, my hands shaking uncontrollably. Finally, I managed to unlock the door and threw myself inside, slamming it shut just as the first clown reached me. I started the engine and tore out of there, the tires screeching on the pavement. In the rearview mirror, I saw the clowns standing at the edge of the carnival, watching me with hollow eyes. I didn't stop driving until I was safely back in my apartment, my heart still racing from the encounter. I never went back to that carnival. The memory of those crazed clowns haunted me for weeks, their faces appearing in my nightmares. The thrill of exploring abandoned places had lost its appeal, replaced by a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. The following days were a blur of restless nights and anxious days. Every creak of my apartment building, every shadow that moved, set my nerves on edge. I couldn't shake the image of those clowns, their wild eyes, their grotesque faces. I had always prided myself on being fearless, but this experience had shaken me to my core. About a week after the incident, I decided to go for a walk to clear my head. The city's bustle was a stark contrast to the eerie silence of the abandoned carnival. As I walked through the crowded streets, I began to feel a little more at ease. The rational part of my mind reassured me that the clowns couldn't have followed me, that I was safe. Just as I started to relax, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Across the street, standing by a bus stop, was a clown. Not just any clown. One of the clowns from the carnival. His makeup was still smeared, his clothes still tattered. Our eyes met, and a sickening grin spread across his face. I quickly turned away, my heart pounding in my chest. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination, that the encounter at the carnival had left me paranoid. But as I continued to walk, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Over the next few days, I kept seeing them. In the grocery store, at the park, even outside my apartment building. They were always just far enough away that I couldn't be sure if they were real or not. I started to feel like I was losing my mind. One night, I woke up to the sound of shuffling outside my apartment door. My heart raced as I grabbed my flashlight and cautiously approached the door. The peephole revealed nothing but darkness. I took a deep breath and slowly opened the door, my flashlight beam cutting through the dim hallway. There, standing in the hallway, were 3 clowns. Their eyes gleamed with a malevolent light, and their twisted smiles sent a chill down my spine. Before I could react, they lunged at me. I fought with everything I had, swinging my flashlight and kicking out. But they were relentless. One of them grabbed my arm, another my leg. I managed to break free and slammed the door shut, locking it behind me. My heart pounded in my ears as I leaned against the door, gasping for breath. I knew I couldn't stay there. I quickly packed a bag and climbed out of my bedroom window, escaping into the night. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I had to get as far away as possible. For weeks, I stayed on the move, never staying in one place for too long. The clowns seemed to be everywhere, always just a step behind me. I couldn't understand how they kept finding me, but I knew I had to stay ahead of them. Eventually, I made my way to a small, quiet town far from the city. I found a cheap motel and checked in under a fake name. I hoped that I had finally lost them, that I could start to rebuild my life. But the nightmares continued. Every night, I dreamed of the carnival, of the clowns chasing me through the dark, decaying grounds. I would wake up in a cold sweat, my heart racing, and it would take hours to calm down enough to fall back asleep. One evening, as I sat in my motel room, I heard a knock at the door. My heart skipped a beat. I cautiously approached the door and looked through the peephole. To my relief, it was just the motel manager. I opened the door, and he handed me a package. "This came for you," he said, his expression neutral. I thanked him and closed the door, my hands shaking as I opened the package. Inside was a small, battered box. I hesitated before opening it, my gut telling me that something was very wrong. But curiosity got the better of me, and I lifted the lid. Inside was a single red clown nose. I dropped the box, my heart pounding in my chest. They had found me. I didn't know how, but they had found me. That night, I didn't sleep. I packed my things and left the motel, driving through the night to a new town, a new motel. But no matter how far I ran, I couldn't escape the feeling that they were always just a step behind me. I've stopped trying to understand why they haunt me. Maybe it's their twisted sense of revenge, or maybe they're just drawn to the fear they know they can elicit. All I know is that the clowns from the abandoned carnival will never stop hunting me, and I will never stop running.